Alright. Michael Hudson, take two. Now, I talked about the Hudson Estate in my last Tall Tales video, and the majority of exposure we get to the Hudson Estate within the story of Tall Tales is through a character called Michael Hudson. There actually is one other angle we get, which is Alice, who is Michael's cousin. Like, they share a great-grandfather, so it's not like first cousins or anything, but they're closely related. I don't know. Don't you hang out with your, third cousins? When you meet Michael, he's heir apparent of the Hudson Estate. He is in line to become Lord Hudson, and in fact, the notes that are part of that first storyline you meet him make it clear that he does eventually become Lord Hudson. So he's going to become Lord Hudson. At the time, he's heir apparent to the Hudson Estate. We haven't gotten to the point in the story where that changeover happens. But his thing is that he is a mage, as I mentioned, and the Hudson Estate practices a very specific school of magic, which happens kind of a lot throughout Tall Tales. You start to kind of recognize that different people have different styles of magic, but they also have different elements that they're attuned to. Jackie is very big on water magic. Alice and Michael have ties to life magic, and so when he casts magic that pertains to living things. For instance, when he wants to scry into a tunnel at one point in the story, instead of just scrying or using a crystal ball or doing some kind of spell that would displace his senses or something like that, he actually summons the spirit of a little mouse and sends it through the tunnel to spy things out for him. Now, the thing is, as I talked about with the Hudson Estate, some of their story is sketchy. Like, they are involved in a lot of stuff that a lot of people would have problems with, and I think fairly reasonably so. Michael, it's implied, doesn't necessarily, at the beginning of the story, know that some of these sketchy things happened, or at least doesn't realize how sketchy some of them actually were. When he is exposed to the knowledge about what happened to Iravati, though, he starts to question some of that, and he actually, his second storyline that he shows up in is him trying to make reparations for that. He actually goes to Iravati to try to offer some amount of help in fixing the situation. Now, when that happens, Akshani is asked directly, should we trust this guy? You've met him. Is he somebody we can trust to work with? She responds that she believes that he has his own self-interest in mind, that his goals are focused on himself and the purposes of the crown and stuff like that, but she feels that it's possible that at this point in time his interests do align with theirs, and as long as that's true, he can be trusted to accomplish those goals. Which raises some questions throughout Tall Tales, because Michael kind of keeps doing this. He shows signs of being someone who isn't fully on board with the stuff that the Hudson Estate has been about historically, isn't fully about some of the practices that he's learned, but also he is okay with some other things that people would be concerned about. Like in the first storyline, you see him capturing mages and putting them in prison without trial, because that's part of the job of the Hudson Estate, is that they are, as I said, a policing force. And they don't go through the normal courts. What are you going to do? Charge a fawn and a normal court? So they handle stuff like that internally. And he has a prison in his estate, and he makes it very clear to the Americans who raise objections about this that this is the system that he is part of, and he's going to do his job. And so there are questions as the story goes on about how much he is trying to be a progressive voice and how much he's just enforcing the system that he's already a part of. And you as the reader kind of have to make that decision yourself. You have to decide how much you're going to trust him. You have to decide how you're going to view his actions, whether you view him as somebody who can be trusted or not, whether you view him as someone who is just inherent part of a system or not. That is kind of left up to the reader to sort out. It's not going to be spelled out for you in the story itself. You will be given things that he does and things that he says, and then left to interpret that for yourself. I encourage you to check out more of a story here at talltalesuf.com. You can also buy books there. The first 2 volumes are already published. And go ahead and take those stories and sort through them as you will, and come up with your own interpretation of who Michael Hudson is. Thank you.